Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. We've been talking about Dr. Eitan Haim, the Texas surgeon who revealed that Texas Children's Hospital was secretly performing gender transition surgeries on minors after the hospital declared it had stopped those procedures. We've been talking about that ever since Chris Rufo reported on it, and then Haim came forward as the whistleblower. And we told you last week he has now been arrested and charged with multiple felonies, such that he is facing up to 10 years in prison for blowing the whistle on procedures that are now illegal in the state of Texas because he violated HIPAA laws, they allege, and he intended to cause malicious harm to Texas Children's Hospital, the government alleges. Haim, who maintains his innocence, points to the fact that he redacted the names of the patients to protect their privacy. As I maintained from the very beginning, I've done nothing wrong. As doctors, we make an oath to do no harm. What the DOJ is doing is criminalizing that very oath. He has said, I know I risk losing everything. Mostly I'm scared because I might miss the birth of my first child, but it's scarier thinking about what kind of country we're going to live in if this is allowed to stand. Yeah. And now we find out that a nurse at the same Texas Children's Hospital named Vanessa Savage was also a whistleblower. She had just accepted a position as a registered nurse at Texas Children's Hospital. She wanted to be a nurse since high school, felt a sense of joy in helping children. This is Chris Rufo again reporting at City Journal. But her feelings toward Texas Children's Hospital didn't last. Beginning in 21, Savage saw a dramatic rise in the number of transgender children treated at the hospital. These patients struggle with various problems: depression, anxiety, addiction, suicide attempts, physical abuse, discomfort with puberty. But rather than deal with these underlying psychological conditions, Savage says doctors at the hospital would diagnose them with gender dysphoria and assign them to a regimen of gender-affirming care. The practice made Savage recoil. In the cardiac clinic, we were taking kids and making them better. In the transgender clinic, it was the opposite. We were harming these kids, she says. 2 months after Rufo spoke to her about his story, in terms of what was going on at Texas Children's Hospital, he got a call from her in a panic because the FBI sent 2 special agents to her home. The agents knocked on her door, asked her about, quote, some of the things that have been going on at her work lately. They told Savage she was a person of interest in an investigation targeting the whistleblower who had exposed the child sex exchange program at Texas Children's Hospital. According to Savage, this is her quoted, they threatened me. They promised they would make my life difficult for me if I was trying to protect the leaker. They said I was not safe at work and claimed that someone at my workplace had given my name to the FBI. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, can you find out who leaked the Dobbs decision? You know, while you're out there looking for leakers, find who left out the cocaine in the White House while you're out there looking for trying to clear some cases. This is where it's at. The pro-life dad in Pennsylvania, attending a Latin mass in the Richmond, Virginia area, exposing the gruesome practices of a hospital that is lying to the public about what it's doing or not doing, and it was doing something that is now illegal in the state of Texas. Going back to our conversation earlier in the program, why things are so vitriolic? They're so vitriolic because the state is so overbearing. and autocratic, censorious, thuggish. That's why.
And they're taking parental rights away from parents.
For more on this and other matters, please be joined by Chadwick Moore, New York Times bestselling author of Tucker, the definitive biography of Tucker Carlson, contributing editor at Spectator World, and you can also get his writings at his Substack, which is substack.com at Chadwick Moore. Chadwick, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, great to be with you guys. Thanks for having me.
So how about, this case now has been really ratcheted up at Texas Children's Hospital. It's certainly not the only such institution that hasn't been engaged in this sort of business. But now that we've got an indictment of a young doctor, it's getting a little bit more attention. And what does that say, in your opinion, about where the T and the LGBT part of the movement currently resides?
Well, it's the T is at the front of the alphabet now. In fact, there's a state park here in New York City where I live that is named after a fake supposedly a transgender person who was big in the gay rights movement in the early years, around 60. Marsha P. Johnson was never at Stonewall. Wasn't actually trans, identified as a male cross-dresser, etc. But this person's been elevated. And the park, the big plaque when you enter the park says it's to celebrate the TLGBT community, TLGBTQ community.
We have to rearrange the letters now?
Rearrange the letters, which has happened before. The original acronym was GLBD.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember times.
that. Yeah.
Yes. And then most of the nonprofits are run by lesbians, so they moved the L to the front. And now the T in some places, especially a state park here in New York City, is recognized as a TLGBTQ community. The T to the front. The T to the front for many reasons. Firstly, it's fundraising. This is why the T is so important. You're still talking about a tiny percentage of the population, still far under 1% that's transgender. And of course, you have these studies supposedly from these horrible organizations like GLAAD come out and say 20% of the youth identifies as LGBTQ, and they're really talking about the Q, which just means fashion. It means I'm a spicy straight person and I want to call myself queer. So fundraising is firstly, these people, they need these organizations, what we call Gay Inc. They need a cause and they need something to raise money on because gay people are certainly obviously fine in this country. They have every right as everyone else. It's not like they're living in Gaza or somewhere. And you've got that issue, but then you've also got the kind of the darker, bigger picture issue that a lot of these communist groups love the T because it dismantles reality. It's something that if you can convince people that a man is a woman and a woman is a man, you can convince them of absolutely anything. And then, of course, there's got to be a business aspect to it, too. These people are medicalized humans. They're going to need medical attention for the rest of their lives. And there's obviously a lot of money in that to convincing people they need hormones and other therapies forever. So these are the sort of forces that we're dealing with. And the government, as you very rightly put it, is antagonizing people into believing this ideology and supporting this.
Yeah, the enforcement mechanism. When is Two-Spirit going to get its day at the front of the alphabet? That's what I want to know.
Oh, it's coming.
So during this Pride Month, 3 teenagers in Spokane, Washington, were arrested for using their Lime scooters. They left skid marks on the Trans Pride mural. What's going to happen to them?
Oh, heavens no, not skid marks. They were arrested with felony mischief, and I believe they're still looking into as a hate crime, which could be up to 10 years in prison. Well, one's 19, the other 2 were minors. So for the 19-year-old, it would be the 10 years. This incident. First of all, these flags.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. It used to be. You'd have the gay neighborhood. You'd have Boys Town in Chicago or West Hollywood, and there'd be one intersection with a rainbow crosswalk, and it was funded by a local business, and nobody cared. Now you've got this Trans Progress Pride flag, which is, it's that rainbow flag that has a kind of transgender triangle of terror burrowing in from the side. It's painted on the sidewalks everywhere. Places like Alexandria, Virginia. Places like I was in Iceland last summer, and there's this archipelago off the coast of Iceland called the Westman Islands. There's 6 million puffins who live on the island and 4,000 people. and the main street there had the rainbow pride trans flag painted up it. It doesn't make any sense, except that and you're like, I think I'm actually the only gay person on this island right now, but thank you for the welcome.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, what about the puffins? You know, we got that NBC gay Animal Planet thing going on this week too. So I mean, don't forget about the gay puffins.
Yeah, and that it is a kind of a gay bird when you look at him. So yeah, that's
Well, don't tell him that. He's still waiting to come out. But these kids, though, but Lime, the company, they had a kill switch then, so nobody could even get close to that, sacred gender flag that was on the ground. But do you really think that these kids might go to jail for this?
If you asked me, 5 or 10 years ago, absolutely not. But these days, yeah, look at what they throw people in jail for anything. And for anything that violates the state religion, for anything that
exactly.
for people that don't like.
No, that's exactly. Well, I mean, it wasn't just Spokane. I mean, there was these incidents around the country because state sanctioned graffiti is okay, and the man. I mean, I saw the coverage. St. Petersburg, Florida. The coverage was like they were looking for the Unabomber. I mean, it's so over the top, but everything associated with this is over the top.
Yeah, it sure is. The same weekend that this happened in Spokane, there were federal statues vandalized with spray paint in Washington, D.C.
Right.
because there was a Hamas rally. I didn't see, you're right, Lime said their scooters are going to there's a kill switch if you get too close to the mural now. I don't recall any spray paint companies clutching their pearls and saying, we hope it wasn't our product used to deface federal monuments. No, it was just this. But, it's, the fact that they're on the roads are like the ultimate symbol of government. There's like two things that everyone can agree the government should be in charge of typically, and that's roads and national defense. So when you have these painted on the roads by taxpayer money, it's the medium is the message. This is where your government said and what we stand for. It also it's so bizarre to put these things on roads. Do you recall in May at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, this photo went viral over the summer or in May because these students rushed to protect the American flag from touching the ground.
Yeah.
These groups, the transgender groups, they want their flag on the ground for like homeless people to defecate on and cars to drive over. It's just an act of disrespect for your own movement. But it also seems to only incite people to vandalize it. It's just like inviting people. We want you to vandalize this. We want you to skid mark this, so then we can just prove how hated we are, and we can have a national manhunt for you.
Well, you used a word that I've been using to explain this to because there's so many useful idiots that run around with their flags and they feel like this is just sort of pro forma. This is what you have to do. It's like St. Patrick's Day. We in Chicago, you dye the Chicago River green. In Pride Month, you put out your flags. Sort of these are just like holiday traditions that are rote. But in point of fact, what you're doing is, and I'm not talking about every gay person. I'm talking about the LGBT thing as a movement. It is a Marxist movement, and so you're essentially platforming the iconography and the propaganda of a Marxist political movement because that's what it is.
That's exactly right. It's the gay rights movement was it became so well funded, so powerful, and so effective. Probably the most rapid, if you want to call it, a civil rights movement in American history from where it started to where it ended up. That it was hijacked by people who saw this power and this voting bloc. I mean, it was hijacked by the Democrat Party in the 90s. Before that, it was very, I talked to guys who were at Stonewall who were around during that time, and they were like, it was like 50, gay people were 50-50 Republican, Democrat, and nobody talked about how you voted. And the Democrat Party saw voting bloc when they saw the power of this movement, and then now you have this Marxist groups that are doing that. I mean, it's all about Marxism now, and that's why you have Queers for Palestine. That's why you have, the whole pro-Hamas movement is the same as BLM was, is the same as the LGBTQ pluses. And the goal is not ever the thing they purport to be marching for or supporting. The goal is always hatred of the West and trying to tear down Western civilization in the United States.
And what do you think of Gays for Palestine? Hello.
There's such a caricature of themselves, but I think it's exactly that. It's this. It has nothing to do with gay rights. It has nothing to do with Palestine. It's this absolute hatred. They hate Israel so much because for the same reason they hate America. They see them as sort of our ultimate capitalistic state, as a colonialist or whatever. And they see it, they smell blood in the water whenever there's a conflict between Israel and Palestine. And they see that as an opportunity to take down, a country that has values they hate. And the whole ceasefire thing is just so amazingly ridiculous, because where were they demanding ceasefire in Ukraine? If they were consistent in their hatred of war, I would support that. If they were out there marching, for ceasefire in Ukraine and also in Gaza, okay, great. You actually do care about human lives. No, you don't. It's a political movement.
I wanted to get your sort of handicapping in advance of the upcoming season, do a little sort of prognostication with us. I'm talking obviously about the National Gay Flag Football League, and I don't know, what kind of team Buffalo is putting together, but I do know that the Buffalo Bills are sponsoring a chapter in Buffalo for the National Gay Flag Football League, and I just thought, you would want to opine in terms of power rankings for the upcoming season.
Yeah, I need to watch more gay flag football to figure that out.
yeah. I mean, or WNBA. I mean, it's a close approximation. Yeah.
Right.
He's a Hawkeye, so I'm sure he likes Caitlin Clark, right?
Oh, you're a Hawkeye too?
Yes, we're everywhere, Dan. You can't escape us. We're like the cicadas in the summer of 2024.
Short lifespan.
Chadwick Moore, I want to ask you. I want to just tell you real quick. You and I have the same pet peeve. Be safe. During COVID, when people tell me, I would say, no, be sane. That was my response. And I don't care who was telling me, whether it was a flight attendant but you had an incident recently and you wrote about it in the spectator.com about buying pasta.
Yeah, well, that was my tipping point. It's been bugging me forever. And my tipping point was I was in a grocery store, just ran in for a box of orzo noodles. And then, of course, the little girl behind the checkout is like, okay, be safe. And I'm just like, what?
Well, you don't burn yourself when you cook.
Like,
You can't burn pasta.
I don't know. Yeah. Did you get?
It's ever gonna stop either.
I saw the Queer Eye guys were hanging out with Kamala. Did you get a White House invite?
I didn't. Can you? I'm not in a dress.
Yeah.
In a beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't steal luggage from airport.
Right. So no real role in the administration then. Yeah, I understand. Disqualifying. Chadwick Moore, New York Times bestselling author of Tucker, the definitive biography of Tucker Carlson, contributing editor at Spectator World, and his Substack is substack.com/@ChadwickMoore. Chadwick Moore, thanks as always.
Thank you.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Between the Consumer Price Index, inflation, and job reports, it feels like you need a PhD in economics to fully understand the economic news happening around us every day.